just a few words of introduction. Many of you will have met our speaker today if you participated in the uh, meeting that we held in WALLACEBURG last spring, and at that time presented the Sydenham Glass catalog to the Wallaceburg and District Museum. As we were saying goodbye that day, Kaylin pointed out that they had a whole barn full of glass that they'd welcome our help in identifying and cataloging. And so that obviously was recorded by both of us because Caitlin approached me a couple of months ago, and I responded that yes, we'd be glad to travel down and help with the identification. She made her presentation from what she referred to as the barn, and I was quite surprised to see how well organized it was and how things were on shelves and there was a nice working space. So I encouraged her to speak to us today as a primer for next month's actual visit to the museum. And hopefully through the presentation, you gain some insight as to how we could help with the museum and the type of help that Kaylin would like to have. So with that type of introduction, I'm going to turn it over to you and let us learn all about the barn and the glass collection.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, this is the barn. I'm Kaylin, I'm the curator of the Wallaceburg Museum. We lovingly call it the barn because they built it just 4 or 5 years ago, specifically to house glass and large artifacts. Initially, we didn't really have anywhere to store glass. No one was anticipating the closure of the glass factory. And then no one was really anticipating all of their leftovers and all of their collection and everything coming right here. And that's what happened. And we ended up, based on the records, I'm trying to find a history of, it was kept in a trailer for a few years. It was kept in storage off-site for a couple of years. And then the barn was built. So just right before the pandemic, we had a woman in here. She was going through and inventorying, cataloging everything that we had. And for some reason, there was no backups available, and someone broke into this barn full of glass and only stole the computer. So we lost all of the hard work that she was doing, and essentially we had to start over. And so that's where I kind of picked up the project, and we're kind of running with it. So I started last year in kind of organizing and trying to see what we have, and there's thousands of pieces in here. So I guess some of the main activities on the day would be recording some of the info about different designs and different patterns that we have here, time periods, manufacturers. Some of the stuff we don't even know if it's Canadian, and we try and focus on Canadian, if not Wallaceburg glass. We have all the catalogs digitized, I mentioned. We have catalogs from now 1894-ish to almost right when the factory shut down. And they all got digitized within the last couple of weeks. And I want to have them available digitally and physically to go through the shelves and match kind of what we have to what their pattern is called and when they were made. We also have, it's a barn, and it does get dusty, and there's a lot of stuff in here that kind of needs to be cleaned and put back away properly. And I'm gonna give a tour of the actual lay of the land in a little bit, but we'd like to have little foam protection pieces around all the pieces of glass, because they're all in flats. They're all just in beer flats, and they clink, clink, clink when you pick them up. So trying to make it as perfect as possible to protect them. And then inventorying is still an ongoing issue. So there's thousands of pieces. There's the odd duplication of our numbers that we use to keep track of pieces. So they need to be fixed, and yeah, it'll make more sense when I get the lay of the land. And then photography as well. So the woman who had her computer stolen when she was working here, she had photographs of most of the glass, and it was all pretty much lost. So getting all the detail shots, and we have a lot of glass with living organism labels on them still, which fade and turn yellow over time, and they will need to be photographed and have all the information taken off of them before they just turn to dust. So that's kind of the main activities. Were there any questions about tasks or anything like that? Okay. So without making anyone too dizzy, I'm gonna try and show what we have at the Wallaceburg Museum in the barn. So we'll start off with we have shelves A through G of glassware. And this would be the first one, and it doesn't even have a letter. This is where we store the jugs and the kerosene oil lamps. And behind it is street lantern globes, the big globes. Then it starts over at shelf A, which is entirely stemware and big bottles, uniform, kind of straight-sided bottles of many different years. And then the biggest, the most we have is tumblers. Tumblers take up a lot of shelves here, and they're not organized currently by when they were made, or they're kind of organized by shape. So it's currently not easy to find without the database or the knowledge to go and look it up where stuff is. And that's really what we're trying to get through here. So shelf B would be the first unit of tumblers. That's C, D, and E is all tumblers. All the way. Sorry, trying not to make anyone too dizzy here. And this is the last unit, and it's kind of very cramped back here, hard to film with a laptop. But this is all milk bottles, jars, oddly shaped liquor bottles like Crown Royal, shorter, stubbier bottles, and that kind of thing, sealers. And then above me is a different glass collection that are all glass liquor bottles that a local collected that were not made locally. And speaking of which, one of the things I mentioned when I was speaking with Carl the other day was that we have the Thomas King collection housed here. And I guess not a lot of people knew that. So this unit here, usually there is a physical barrier between it and anybody. But this here is mostly King collection storage. And I've not pulled it out yet. I'm not exactly sure what's in here. It is cataloged well. It is photographed well. But I thought, since you guys are coming here and we're gonna have lunch together and everything, it would be really nice to put this on display while you're here. And you're welcome to look through it, take pictures, any of that sort of stuff. And same with this. This came to us with the King collection, and it is his binder. So towards the back, it's mostly certifications from the companies that he collected from. He collected all around the world, and then got each one to write him a letter certifying that his piece in his collection was made at that factory. And then the front of the binder is more full of his writings and some thoughts and inventories and stuff like that. So I'm going to get that scanned hopefully this week, and then we'll be ready to show it off to Glasfax as well. Just give me one second. These are some, I pulled some out. This is the stuff that I really need help with, is the pressed glass. We have 15 to 20, I would say, bankers boxes full of it. It was all dropped off in 2008 by 2 different donors for the most part. And yeah, it's all any pattern recognition, if possible at all, when, where, who, lots of stuff like that. This one we know. We have some, I just wanted to pull it out and show it off. Some maple leaf. Yeah, so this is two halves of different bankers boxes, but we have so many that need to go through. And then we try and only keep two of each piece because, as you can see, we have a lot. We keep two because glass breaks, but the second one is just backup. So we might have so many duplications in this this collection that could be sent to different institutions and used at different museums. And again, this is kind of going to be the setup for lunch. This is from the King collection. I pulled some of the pieces off the shelf just to be able to show you guys. If they haven't crumbled up and fallen off like some of the labels do, most of them are labeled with his codes for where he got them. No, you can't really, the glare. Some of them have notes inside saying what they are. And some of them tricked even Thomas King. Not sure what this guy is used for. So there's kind of a lot to get into, a lot to see, a lot to learn for, I think, all of us, what's going on here. Did anyone have any questions at all? Or?
Okay, I have a question. Okay, so Kaylin, it's Don Wilson, Kathy's husband. Do you collect glass?
I've recently started.
Okay, excellent. Okay. The second question is, this looks like a major process. How long do you expect that this whole process will take to complete?
I will admit I don't have enough experience with this. I'm very new in my career. Yeah. To know how long it's actually going to take, but we've worked on it already for about a year. And last summer I had 3 students in here working for 4 months straight, just taking pictures, and now I'm going through the work they did, and every little mistake adds on 5 minutes.
I get it.
5 minutes per class. It's cool. Yeah.
So do you expect to bring the students back this year again? Same ones that have some understanding?
I only have one.
Okay.
We kept one on all year, but she could only come in once a week because she was doing school.
Yeah.
And now we have one coming in for the summer for 4 months for full time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have a co-op student until June.
So I've been to your museum, but it was some time ago. Do you expect ever to have any major exhibitions of some of this glass collections?
I would love to. We have a temporary exhibit area, but it's not very big. And when I started here, what was on display in that area was like a thin quarter of the King collection. So we're actually having major renovations planned in the next 5 to the museum. So hopefully we get some more access to temporary exhibit space where we can, bring stuff in. And like, I would love to do a display, for example, in conjunction with Glasfax. What do you guys have? What do we have? And what kind of display can we put together? So yeah, definitely more options for that in the future. We have the art gallery available too, but it's typically booked for the year.
Just one other, I'm involved also with Windsor's museum, so I just have a few related questions that way. Is your municipality and your town council very active about participating in this, funding it?
It's a little bit tricky. So we're tenants to the county.
Oh, okay, the county. Okay, Kent.
Yeah, so we're not actually, like, I'm an employee of the WALLACEBURG Historical Society, not the county.
Okay.
But the building is owned by the county.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, our building is owned. Part of it is owned by another group too, Windsor Historic Sites, and then it's the building is leased actually from the municipality.
Right. Yeah. So kind of like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the county is involved in the renovations and going to kind of help us with that, but the day-to-day projects of the barn don't bother them
because
too much.
It's incredible collection that if the word gets out, I think they would add to your tourist dollars for the municipality. So, okay, thank you.
And actually, the Glasstown Brewery, I'm hoping, is going to do wonders for us
Yeah.
because we have a lot of glass still that it comes in because everyone had somebody that worked at the glass factory and took stuff home. And we have it. We have 2 of them. Typically, we put them straight in the gift shop with permission from the donor to still benefit the museum. So the guy who's building the brewery actually came and almost gutted us of most of that glass. And he's got a big mural and yeah.
Okay,
so.
silly question. You went over all the bottles, etc. Did they ever make beer bottles there?
They did.
They did. Perfect. Okay.
I'm curious how many catalogs you have for Dominion Glass products.
Dominion or just the whole time of WALLACEBURG Glass?
Yeah, the whole time.
At least 10.
Okay.
Probably more. Yeah. They're more weighted in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I would say. Maybe 6. Well, we have a fair amount in the 60s as well, but anything prior to that was kind of hit and miss.
Okay.
Well, at least in our collection. I don't know. They're probably something. I also forgot to mention, inside I've rearranged, there's insulators, whimsies, and a few more kind of awkwardly shaped items that are in storage. They're all cataloged and photographed and everything, but as interest pieces, if anyone wants to go through all the cases in the glass gallery, if you remember our glass gallery looks like, they all have glass stored underneath them as well. So cut glasses in there as well. Yeah. Welcome to go through the glass playground all you want.
Uh-oh.
I'm checking pockets on the way out.
Oh, Dawn has another question.
Yeah,
Comment.
when you mention whimsies, what does that include? Does that include canes, the drapes? What else does it include? Does it include, where have there ever been any examples of the milk glass Easter eggs that were made in WALLACEBURG, or do you have any in your collection?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I'm gonna look it up though.
Okay.
That's a good. The whimsies that we have are canes, hammers, axes, paperweights, and swans are the big ones.
Yeah, swans. Yeah. Okay.
And then the odd, we have modern whimsies, I call them, because when they switched to machine making glass, they couldn't play and make swans and stuff because it dried too fast. But they had modern whimsies where they would make an egg in a ladle, shake it around, and you know, that kind of thing. But they're all just balls of glass formed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much, Kaylin, for talking to our group today. It's very enlightening what you have back there to identify still, and hopefully our group can help you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Great.
I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for having me.
I'm not sure you're aware of what's sitting here in front of you, but this is a collection of Tom King's that is part of the museum's collection. A lot of it was in boxes until just a couple of days ago. Caitlin and the museum have been good enough to bring it out so that we could have a good look at it. And I'm not about to speak about the details of it, but Caitlin will. And I think Sid probably could add some detail to it. So with that comment, I'll let you take over.
Yes, thank you very much. So yes, this is the King collection. I've tried to go through and organize it by country, but for the most part, it is all international glass, not made in Canada. And with this collection came a binder that's about this thick and full of letters that he had written either to get pieces of these glass or to get identification for the glass that he had already had. Some of the letters said that he had drawn them little pictures to describe his glass. Some he had just described it well enough, or he had some of the information on it. But I'm going to share some of that. For what we have the letters for, I've taken some of the information here. So starting off is this piece right here. It's a small little glass. So this was made in Austria. It is a liqueur-shaped glass, and it's referred to in the letter as exquisite Milano and Brussels pattern. And the Brussels line was honored with the Grand Prix at Expo 1958. The exquisite shape received the silver medal at the 1960 Triennial in Milan and was selected the most beautiful glass in the world by the Corning Glass Museum in 1959. And here, this one is from Ireland. This is a Waterford glass-footed mustard dish. It was hand-blown and cut in Waterford, Ireland, and is part of a collection of period pieces, they say. And then that came with a little information booklet as well. Still all intact. This guy. So this one here, this little goblet, this is called the Regis design. It's unique to an H28 machine, and it's from Australia. In 1970, it won the Good Design Award for the Australian Design Index. In 1971, it won Hoover Gold Medal for Domestic Marketing in Australia and First Export Award by the Chamber of Manufacturers and Department of Overseas Trade. And in 1973, it won the Hoover Export Marketing Award. And this little guy, triangle-shaped ashtray from Belgium, and it's called the Tricorn 3-inch ashtray. These two pieces are part of a set, and they are from Bulgaria, and they were described as being a seafood serving set. And that this one has a cut pattern in it as well. This guy. Can anyone guess what this one is? It's quite heavy. It has a
candle holder?
That's what I thought too. I thought it was a candle holder, but it is actually a cigarette pot that was made in France by Jerome and Bonnefoy Co. It's quite heavy, like paperweight kind of weight. I lost my spot. This glass here. So this glass here is from Western Germany. It's called a Rhine wine glass, and they had the design name in German on the letter. I'm not going to try and butcher it, but the translation was apple cake. That little guy. These two candlesticks here, they came from Bombay, India. And the label says Bombay, India, Borosil Glassworks oil lamps. So. This one still has its sticker on it, I believe, from the factory. It says, well, it says stuff in Italian because it's from Italy. But this one is a crystal tumbler with a black foot, it was referred to. This vase here, I'm not sure how to describe it other than it feels like it could float away. It is incredibly thin. And this letter it stood out to me because it's from Sweden, a Sydenham Glass vase. But the letter described the factory and its location as being a small factory deep in the forest. So they made kind of more artistic pieces, I guess. And all these glasses here on this stand and the ones underneath were made by Sasaki Owens Glass Co. In Tokyo, Japan. So I just thought it was interesting that the Owens name had traveled as far as Japan in terms of goblets and tumblers. Sorry folks, I jumped ahead on my page here. There we go, there's this is another vase from Sweden, and this is one of the ones that Mr. King, I guess, had tried to describe in his letter, but he also drew a picture to send it along to get identification for that. And this, does anyone know what this would be used for? It's got a small hole in one end and a larger opening in the other.
Or a globe. Yeah. It would be a globe for a lamp.
Globe for a lamp, maybe? Oh, like a shade? Yeah. Perhaps. So this one's also from Sweden, and we didn't have a letter with this one. We had an invoice, and all it said was 1 glass olive opal. There it is. And this guy, this swirl pattern, this is a 2-pint giraffe water jug in the swirl pattern from Chance Brothers Limited in Birmingham. This is a machine-made goblet from Darlington Glass in the UK. This kind of section is all UK glass. And this one is actually, in the letter, it was described as a paperweight. So it is a vase, it's hollow, but it's heavy on the end. So it's like a vase paperweight, I guess. From Caithness Glass. I believe that's in Scotland, if I'm correct. Does anyone recognize these guys? These would go inside an old thermos. So these are actually made by Thermos, the company, in the UK, and this is the insulation for an old water bottle thermos or something like that. These two, it says pair of cups, so I'm not sure if they're just funny shaped, they're teardrop shaped, shot glasses or what they are, but they're from Dartington, England, and they made 2 of these, or sent 2 of these, and this little guy as well. So this one is from Ravenhead Glass in the UK. I think that's a name that's stuck around for quite a few years. And this was described in the letter as being a traditional English beer drinking mug. That's what that's for. These 2 are probably my favorite as far as the letters have gone. It's a pair of shot glasses from England. And I think Mr. King had met this person at a conference or something. They had some rapport going on before this. One says London, one says New York. And the letter said, that they are souvenirs for the souvenir industry. And the letter goes on to quote that, "I am sorry that they are not of tremendously good quality, but I am afraid, and it is so typical of much of the souvenir rubbish one has to churn out these days." So a little bit different from the antique historical glass that we have. And then this, which I've never really seen before being used, but this is a coaster that's also made of glass. And this one's actually from the States. It's from K.R. Haley Glassware. Glass coaster. And we have two more from West Virginia here. And these are ruby glass pieces. This is a goblet. And this is a little, it just says tulip-shaped cup. But they're both ruby glass. And the letter said that it's representative of the extremely difficult art of making ruby glass. And then we have a pair here of, I thought the handles were very neat on these little Irish coffee mugs. They're both made in the States. But a little artistic. And then this guy, this is Rainbow Art Glass Co. So I'm not sure if they must have made a lot of different colors. It's a little green picture with kind of the cracked effect. This one I definitely wanted to point out. This is a deep sea float for fishing in the deep sea. This one was made in the States, and we actually have another one at the end that is green. Oh, yep, there it is. This one was made in France. So we have two deep sea floats. I'm not positive on how we would use these. That's okay. This one here is from the Bartlett Collins Co. in Oklahoma. And it was described as being their most popular piece for years and years and years. So they churned this one out. And I think that's what Mr. King was mostly asking for. He was asking for really unique or really representative of your company. It's even more cool, I guess, that every person that he reached out to sent their favorite piece as well. He wasn't just grabbing what was interesting. And these bowls here, I think I skipped over them. But we have an ashtray from Holland. It's kind of got like a swirl color to it, kind of brown and clear. And then this one was called a free form bowl. And it's quite heavy, but it is from New Zealand. And again, you can kind of see through it. It's darker towards the bottom, but not sure how many things you could fit in there. And for the rest of these tables here, what we have is organized by country, but we didn't get the letters for them. Either it didn't come through, or we just didn't know where to start searching, I guess. So here we have all different factories in the US. This is one of my favorites as well. This is a little top hat, not glass, but it's a match holder. So we get to the US, we start going into Europe a little bit. So we have some Belgium over here, some Poland, some more Sweden, and then Mexico kind of starts here, more Germany, France, UK. Now these, I think this is the only Canadian piece that I've identified anyway in the collection. Canadian chalet glass, but I'm not sure where. And then these ones either don't have country identifications or there's not a big section for the country. So we have a bunch from North Africa here, Ghana. This one is also extremely heavy at the base. I think it's pretty well solid. And it is from Venezuela. You can see there's some color change. And Sid, you pointed this one out to me. Did you want to say anything
That
about
was
it?
from the Kent Glass Company, about 1880s.
Kent Glass?
Canton.
Canton? Where was Canton?
They started in Canton, Ohio, and they ended up in Marion, Indiana.
1880s. And do you know what the pattern or the color would be?
They called it dewdrop, was what they called that pattern. Today we call it honeycomb, not honeycomb, hobnail,
Hobnail. Dewdrop. And the color?
blue.
The blue. Any blue.
Back then they just said blue.
Yes. Then we have another junk here as well from Brazil. I love it when they use all these different colors.
It's quite special.
There's clear in between. Another funny shaped one here is the wine pourer from Spain. Decanter, I guess you would call it. And how do you think they would have made this one? This one's a vase, and it's kind of a super funny shape for regular, what I usually see anyway, around here. Just wondering what the mold would have looked like.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Did anyone have any questions about any specific piece? Yes?
So in the notes that you got from Tom King, were any of these pieces used as maybe inspiration or designs for items that Dominion produced?
I don't think so. Definitely maybe, like he could have been showing people, but not documented anyway. This was mostly, he had the goal of creating an international glass museum. So he was doing all the collecting and he was looking for a spot to house it. Any questions? Pieces you want me to hold up? There's a lot. Everyone's more than welcome after to come up and check it out too. And this globe, I believe, is made in the States. Put your whiskey or your bourbon inside and start.
Very cool.
I thought it represented this collection pretty well.
Are there any other questions? Well, on behalf of the group, thank you very much for introducing this collection to us. Tom King was was the founder of Glasfax. And he sat in his office in Montreal and apparently wrote letters all around the world saying, please send me a sample of your glass. And I've heard about this collection, but didn't realize it was here. So, very cool. On behalf of our group, thanks very much for taking us through this, and it's just fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. I want